Hey folks, I'm Garen Carlin, Mosses Creek Outdoors. I got a couple of different things put together for you in this video. I'm gonna go check out where an old cemetery used to be that's no longer there. There's no sign of it, and it's really a sad situation. But I'm gonna go show you that, and then right after that, I'm gonna jump about 6 miles or so down the road to another property where I grew up. And I'm gonna show you an old whiskey still site and some old barrels that's still there. But other than that, I'm gonna bring you some information that you really may be interested in, and you may have wondered about for a long time. What does the state of Tennessee, or the state that you're in, state about visiting graves, cemeteries, and different stuff, you know, in the historical field? What do the state laws state? So I'm going to tell you at the end of this video what the state laws say when it comes to, you know, can you visit a grave or a cemetery over here? You know, how, when, is the grave or the cemetery located on private land, you know, private property, posted land? I'm gonna talk to you about how you can go about accessing that. You know, if you know where somebody's buried, or if you know where there's a small historic cemetery, or even if you know where there's a large number of folks buried, you know, way out in the woods or whatever it might be. But I'm just gonna go over that stuff at the end of the video, discussing some of the actual laws here and talking about, you know, yes, no, and different questions like that when it comes to cemeteries, graves, slash historical sites or whatever. So stay tuned. We're gonna check out these spots here. I'm fixing to go in here on a piece of property that I got, and I'm gonna show you location of where a old, I guess, historic type cemetery was years and years ago, and the spot has been completely destroyed back several years ago, and it's just very sad. But I'm gonna go up to this spot and show you where this cemetery once was. It's up on top of a ridge back here, pretty much on the northern side of this piece of property. So I'm gonna go on back here and show you where this spot is. It's really sad, it really is. Appreciate y'all watching. This is gonna be a little longer episode than normal. Approximately the last 10 minutes of this video is going to be very important as I discuss some of these Tennessee state laws regarding accessing graves and cemeteries on and off private property, and I believe it will be useful to you in the future. Alright, I'm gonna walk on around this road a little ways, and where that cemetery was is around here, back up on the next little ridge back over here. Alright, where I'm going is up to the top of this hill. I don't know if you can see or not. You can kind of see where the very tip top of the hill is, looking up through the woods. Right up on top of that, just over the peak, right at the very top of that right there is where I'm going. I've made it up here to the spot where the cemetery was, or whether, you know, the folks are still here, I don't know. But the cemetery is just beyond my shoulder here as you look. This clearing right in here, this open area right behind me is where the cemetery was located. And just exactly how long did any headstones or markers has been gone, I don't know exactly. But this property was logged back, I'm gonna say, maybe around 15 years ago, something like that. And there was probably 4 or 5 feet of dirt removed with a dozer off the top of this hill right here. But how I know the cemetery was here is back in the early 60s, an uncle of mine, he lived on this property in a house further north, which would be straight through those trees that's still standing and on over across the hollow over there. And when he lived in that location, he used to leave his house and walk straight across this property here, going over onto this tract of property that I got here. And over back in this other bottom on this side over here, he'd be going squirrel hunting. And this cemetery was right on top of this hill because my uncle would walk right through the middle of it when he was going over here squirrel hunting. And he said he remembered seeing, you know, 40 or 50 headstones or markers right on top of this hill right in here. And he said, you know, a lot of the markers, you know, were chest high, you know, fairly large markers. Some of the markers was even shaped like a piece of a tree, like I've seen before. I'll even pop in some pictures here that's similar to what my uncle states that's close to what he's seen here at one time. Far as what happened to the markers, I don't know. I don't know if at one time there was a large hole dug up on this hill here and they was pushed in a hole and covered up or what. But the last year that my uncle stated that he seen any headstones or markers here was back about 1964. And that was the last time he actually seen them. But after he moved off of this place and was living in another location, he was back on this property. He stated one more time after that. And that time when he returned, every headstone and marker had disappeared. But that was before any logging was ever done. But he said every single marker was gone. And he never heard a clue what happened to them. But right up across this opening, right up through here, right behind me here, is where it would have been. And this place was recently logged again, as you can see here back, I don't know, just over the past couple of years here. So, I mean, I don't know. I don't know if you know, bones and stuff was pushed out of here or what, or exactly how much damage was done. But it's just, it's strange to look at because, you know, there's not any sign of anything here. I mean, there's no markers, no headstones, no nothing. The only thing I noticed was right across the edge of this hill right here, there's some really large boulder rocks kind of in a row, kind of across the southern edge of the hill here. Between right here and that big oak treetop that you see laying right there, from here to there and right up through where this opening is in this logging road right here. It was right on the peak of this hill, just before this hill drops off into this big bottom off down to the creek down here. But when my uncle was living, like I stated, further over on this property here, said he walked up across here when he was going squirrel hunting. And he said there was, you know, there was markers and headstones scattered all up across here. And I think, best I know, it may have been called the Cohee Cemetery. I've had a tendency to kind of want to call it maybe Lost Ridge Cemetery, because of what's happened over the years. But I have not been able to locate a single piece of a marker or a headstone. And there's just stuff laying all over the ground. And there's no sign of anything. And there's more big boulders in a row going up the side of the hill right there. But it would have been right up along, right in here, down through here on this peak of this little ridge, going down to the edge of the hill there. Right up this little flat top part of this ridge right here. But it's just a very, very sad situation. So technically, actually, or I would be standing about right in the middle of it right here, right now. But there is no sign of anything left. A sad situation to see a old cemetery disappear like this one has, and I hate to see it. I really do. You know, I wish it could still be here and the markers still be here, you know, where you could read stuff, people's names and dates, and that's one of the reasons that a lot of us out there, you know, try to research history and learn things about it and find out what we can, you know, try to preserve what history is there. And anything that you can learn about or find out about, you know, it's worth your time. So, but I'm gonna leave this location right here, and I'm gonna jump about 6 miles down the road to another tract of ground where I was raised, and I'm gonna have a look at an old whiskey still and some barrels. So stick with me, and we'll head down that way. I'm heading around to where it used to be a whiskey still years ago. I think it used to be actually a couple of them right in here. I'm right on the edge of a creek bottom here, and there's a big hill going back up to my right here, which that would be going back mostly south. This is north. So this is a mostly north facing hillside, a little bit northeast facing, and there's a couple of big springs comes out of this hill back further on up here. And back in the day, when whoever had a still set up, they had plenty of fresh water, spring water coming out from under this hill up here. But I already see one of the barrels laying up ahead of me here. That one there looks like it's been shot a couple of times. All the rest of the barrels is further around this ridge right up here. The best I've been able to tell for years, I think something went on right in here. I'm not for sure, but there's a humongous spring coming out of this hill right here. But you can see the fresh spring water running right there. I can about guarantee you that's some of the freshest water in this country coming straight out of that hill or out from under it. There's a humongous hickernut tree. You're talking about some good squirrel hunting. I squirrel hunted in this area right in here ever since I was a kid. A lot of big cypress trees, tupelo gums. And when you get right here at the edge of the hill, you got wild oaks, hickornuts, and big beech trees around through here. So you got acorns, hickornuts, and beech mash. If the beech trees have a good year, that is. There appears there was something going on right here. There's a big indention crossing the side of the hill right here. You can see there's all the other barrels are over there. And there's a gap running up in the side of that hill. And there's another huge spring coming out right there. Springs coming out right over here, running right out through over here. There's an old creek run right there. That spring's running straight into that creek run. There's a bullet hole in that one, or looks like a bullet hole. That one right there has been shot several times. That one there's been shot. Right there. More bullet holes. And there's 1, 2, 3. There's 3 more barrels off in the spring right there. Go up here to see if this one's got any sign on it. I already see 3 bullet holes right here in the top. I'm still on this big north to northeast facing ridge, but I'm further west than I was a few minutes ago. You can see there's a couple of different big rocks right in here. There's one laying right here and one over here. A friend of mine, which he's, best I remember, he's about 80 or a little older, and he grew up here when he was a kid, just like I did. And him and somebody else, I guess a friend of his, they burnt these woods off right up in here many years ago. And he says that he's seen 2 whole rows of rocks marking graves going up the side of this ridge right here. And the old tale is from an uncle of mine that we believe this is the 2 rocks that was marking the head of the cemetery, which would be on the north end of where it was here. But as I've been told by an uncle of mine, which he stated that he's seen these rocks, said the 2 rocks were standing up on the end, kind of like forming a teepee, coming to a point. One was leaning on the other one at the top. One coming this way and one coming this way, and they met at the top and had a hole going up between them. And my great grandfather was born in 1877 and lived about a half a mile east of right here. And he told my uncle down here one day that this spot right in here was a Native American cemetery. So whether for sure it is or not, I don't know, but the guy that I brought back down here that originally grew up in this spot like I did, I brought him here to this location probably, I think, well, it was this past fall of 2022. And the best he could tell, this was the spot where he seen those grave markers. And they had all these woods burn off up in here. And he said it was 2 perfect straight rows of rocks. And he said they was about 8 feet apart, and said there was 20 or 30 of them. And then over here there was 20 or 30 more. And one of these days I may have to end up doing a control burn right in here, and maybe seeing if I can come up with anything else as far as any rocks in straight rows or anything like that. But it's been a story for a long time about a Native American cemetery right in this area on the edge of this big bluff right here. And of course the creek is about 150 yards across the bottom, right out behind me here. But that's just another little piece of history I thought I'd share with you. And whether I will ever locate anything else giving me any kind of identification right here in this area of anything, I don't know. It'll just be something that'll take further research. All right, I'm gonna try to discuss a few things with you here about how the state law looks at the part far as folks visiting graves or old cemeteries that may or may not be on, posted or private property. You might know of an old cemetery, that where some of your ancestors may be, and say, this old cemetery or that grave or that 2 or 3 graves, it may be out, on a private hunting club or something like that. I'm just going to tell you about 5 or 6 different things right here, and I'm going to post some information right here at the end of the video regarding the laws. And what you can do, when the video gets on it, you can pause it and read the whole entire thing if you would like. It's called the Walter Hines Law. It was argued in Tennessee Supreme Court out of Nashville, December 1911. But probably what you need to do is, if you're in this case here, I'm in the state of Tennessee. If you're not in Tennessee, you need to contact your state capital and find out if your state has what's called a historical commission. And I found out just a few months ago that Tennessee has what's called the Tennessee Historical Commission. And they've got some folks that work for them that can answer these questions, and you can contact them, and they can put you in contact with a person that can answer this different stuff, involving graves and cemeteries and all that. But this Walter Hines Law that I'm going to post during the video here, basically what it says is you are allowed to access a grave or a cemetery on private property during a reasonable time under a reasonable manner at any given time without permission, as long as you are even like a distant family member, or distant of kin, ever how you want to put it. It says that you may access from the nearest road. That's also mentioned. But something else here, and this is a piece of information here that I have learned over the past couple of years, and this is some stuff that a lot of folks out there is very, very unaware of. I started, of course, I've always, looked at history, looked at old cemeteries, graves, different stuff like that, but I stepped up a level, or a couple of levels, as far as learning more regulations and laws and guidelines when it comes to this historical and cemetery type stuff year before last. And I'll tell you how. My granddad passed away in 2011. And this is March. This upcoming May, he'll be gone 12 years. And the family, we brought my granddad up, had him brought up after he was buried in a public cemetery for 10 years. We moved him approximately 4 miles down the road and placed him on the family farm. If you move someone like that and place them on a private property, anyone that's a family member, like a blood relative, to put it, they have a right to come and visit that spot at any point in time. It don't matter if it's a mile, off in the woods, they have a right to come and visit that grave again, or that cemetery, or whatever, it might be. A lot of these people will put up posted signs or no trespassing signs around, say, these little small cemeteries, that may be on private property, fairly close or not far off, of a public road. And, any of the family or whatever, or, distant of kin, blood relative, stuff like that, even if there's posted or private property signs up, those signs stands for nothing. Can't no access point like a driveway or a road or anything like that where you're going to have to pass through to access, a family cemetery, anything. Can't nothing be gated or cabled, or blocked. Some people will try to lay stuff across the road, so you can't drive over it or drive past it. That's a problem. That's against the regulations. But now something else here is, some of these little small cemeteries, they will be actually marked out on their own individual plat as a tax exempt area. Things can work a little different, in a case like that. But a lot of times these little small cemeteries, they hadn't been deeded out of the property that they're on, and they're actually on the plat of an actual landowner. And yes, a landowner will have control of that site, of that cemetery or that location, although, there may be other blood relatives, and kin that's going to want to visit that area. So, again, they have if they're a family member or relative, they have a right to access that area, if they wish to visit. Well, how close can a house be to a grave or a cemetery? How close, can any living quarters, be to a grave or a cemetery, or how far out, can anything be disturbed or whatever around a grave or a cemetery? Every grave has what's called a 10-foot buffer. Any crypt is 5 feet, but cannot nothing be disturbed within 10 feet all the way around a grave. And there again, when it comes to a house, any type of living quarters, anything like that, it can be 10 feet. You wouldn't think that a house or whatever could be that amount of feet, from a grave or a cemetery, but it's 10 feet I think I was told that it's best if you ever see that a house or something's going to be that close to anything like that. I believe they called it a waiver. You can go to appear before a judge and get what's called a waiver if that case, was to ever occur. And one more thing here that some folks out there may wonder about is who do graves or headstones or markers belong to? Headstones, tombstones, markers, whatever you want to call them, belong to family members, and the graves belong to no one. So, but this is just a few bits and pieces that I've just quickly touched on here when it comes to, these state guidelines for cemeteries and here in Tennessee. But I strongly recommend that if you're not in Tennessee, or whether you're in Tennessee or not, contact somebody through the state historical commission, and they can answer any of the questions that you may have. And even in another state, they may be able to submit or supply you with some type of piece of information like I've found here in Tennessee, which is called this Walter Hines law. But it was Walter Hines versus state from Tennessee Supreme Court, December 1911, Nashville, Tennessee. But there's also some law codes for this stuff. But I'm gonna throw that Walter Hines law in here at the end, and you can pause the video if you'd like to read all that. It's an interesting piece of information, and I think it'd be worth your time to read it. I think it's about close to 2 pages or something like that. But there's a lot of folks out there that's very, very unaware of a lot of this stuff when it comes to these laws and regulations involving the graves and cemeteries and this historical type stuff. So appreciate you watching. I hope some of this information helps you out. So until next time, I'll see you from somewhere out in the great outdoors, wherever it may be. I'm Gary Carlin, Mosses Creek Outdoors, and I appreciate y'all watching.